Okay. Hi everyone. We're pleased to be able to share with you how we developed our block play to promote the 4 purposes: the creativity, critical thinking and problem solving. And over the past 4 years, really, we've transformed our practice to make sure that children are truly at the centre of everything that we do. Just to give you a quick context, Hafod is in Johnstown in Wrexham. We've got 350 pupils on roll, about 23% free school meals, a very mixed catchment, some very affluent families, some very socially deprived families. We were an amalgamation of Johnstown Infants and Juniors since in 2015. We're currently on a split site, but in February they're starting the process of an extension and refurb to the Key Stage 2 site to bring us all onto one site. So we have a brand new foundation phase department, and basically we'll start from scratch really and recreating that environment. So it's quite an exciting time ahead for all of us. So I'm just going to give you a flavour. We're going to look back at November 2017 when I joined the school, and staff worked incredibly hard, but were feeling a bit bogged down by the systems that were in place and were ready for a change. So the dawn of the new curriculum really meant that the time for change was ripe. We obviously needed to establish where we were and understand how staff felt. And I think it's important for us to share some of our before photographs, if you like, so you know how significant the change has been in terms of our practice. So just a couple of photos really just to show how we worked previously. We worked in a carousel when some children would work with a focused task with an adult generally at a table, and other children would be sent off to complete pre-planned challenges in other areas of the classroom. There were a lot of frustrations that came with that way of working, and I'm sure many of you will perhaps empathise with that, is that the children lacked independence sometimes to complete those challenges, which felt a little bit like we put a lid on expectations, or it was a worksheet in another name, if you like. And because teachers were tied to the focus tasks, the children often messed up, if you like, the areas that they were in, and staff felt demoralised because they'd spent so long preparing those areas. Resources were out for the children, but it might have been like a year's supply of pencils, for example, all at one time, so it's more difficult for the children to tidy up and put things away. So it was quite hard for teachers to feel that they were making inspirational places for the children to access, because the children would trash them as quickly as they've been created, and I'm sure some of you will empathise with that. The other thing that I think that was very much common practice at the time was that there was a badge that children would wear when they went into an area, and then it became a competition about whose turn it was to wear the badge and how many children were in an area. So they'd stand there and wait for their turn rather than, and it became all about who was wearing the badge. So that the children would often fight and complain and upset that they couldn't go into an area without that precious badge around their neck. We had set role play areas, but we looked carefully at those within the classrooms, and reflecting on the pedagogy asked those kinds of questions: is role play the only area that children can play? So we felt that the environment was quite adult directed and adult focused, and we felt that it was time to create more opportunities for the children. So we've shared some of the frustrations, and these are some of the questions that we asked. So we wanted to create an enabling environment to use and apply skills and support the children's interests. And in preparing for that change, these are some of the key questions that we asked. We reflected on what kinds of messages we were giving to the children about their learning, when it happened, and how it was valued. Most importantly, the last question on that list was about when did teachers, and particularly teachers and TAs, spend time supporting the play in the areas of continuous provision, particularly if they'd only ever been tied to a focus task at a table. And we just asked the question, if teachers were only ever at focus tasks, what did that tell the children about where learning could happen and what was more important? So Anne-Marie is going to share some photos of the transformation really, and it hasn't happened overnight. It's been a four-year process, and we're still very much on that journey. But Anne-Marie is just going to share some of the transformation and give you the case study for block play.
Thank you, Alison. Pictures here are the transformation afterwards. So the new curriculum asks for Wales, asks us as professionals to develop a more integrated approach to learning, to enable learners to build connections across their learning, combining different experiences, knowledges and skills. And it's for the practitioner to have the license to be able to combine meaningful learning from different areas and disciplines. And in our school, we focused first on creating those inspirational areas which carefully are crafted to support and embed the children's learning as they play. In our school, we prioritise play and see the time where the children choose and follow their own interests just as valuable as time as when the children are learning at a teaching directed task. This is the time when children can use and apply the skills that they have learned, when we truly know what the children understand. The children have 1 hour every day to ignite their own passions, and this time is non-negotiable. It cannot be cancelled for singing practice, extra reading or interventions, and all the adults in the phase participate in over to you time. The role of the adult is vital. You may decide that you are a fetcher, a carrier, an observer, a documenter. The children might decide that you're not involved in their play, and at that point you are just the observer. Or sometimes you might even be the idea sparker. Having everyone involved in over to you time creates the ethos within the school that children's play is important, it's valued, and that the child's voice in what they learn is heard. One of the first areas that we decided to look at as a phase was block play area. This used to be our school library. You can see that the remnants, the shell of it. We took the doors off the cupboards and we transformed it, moved the library around the corner, and got to work. We felt that this is an area which was carefully crafted to ensure that there is a maximum opportunity to use, apply and refine learned skills in class. And we would ask you to look closely at the way in which we have chosen to present the blocks. All the blocks are shadowed, named and labelled, and the way in which the blocks are labelled reinforces mathematical principles every time a block is selected and put away. Excuse me, this is the second half of our block area, but it looks closely there at the labelling. We tie in mathematical practice wherever we can find a link for it. For instance, using the basic fractions to put away the quarter blocks. We also encourage the use of everyday items such as iPhone cases, Pandora boxes, gift boxes at Christmas to enhance the play in the block play area. The big builds will often have one main architect, that one child who sparks off the building, and they has the vision in mind, and it will be the supporting adults or the children involved's responsibility to suggest ideas. They'll create labels, scenery, ask questions and research in order for the whole team to reach their building goal. The important thing to mention is that the children involved in the projects will often go to different areas of the provision, such as the workshop area, the painting area, to create their part of the build and come back with their response. No child is tied to one area. Depending on the children's stage of development or the time of year, the adult is often there to ask leading questions about the structure of the build. Is there a way in which you can make this structure more stable? What kind of blocks will you need for your build? And I'm sure that you'll be able to, this will resonate with a lot of practitioners. If it's September, your main task will be to negotiate with the children that they won't need every single block all at once. Having a learning hook in the big block area is like striking gold. It's a starting point where the teachers will start to look closely then at formal teaching opportunities that will open up as a result. Depending on the enthusiasm for what has been created, a topic could last for days or even weeks. And this slide shows you the start of a case study documenting how the children have used an interest that they brought to school to then be able to go forward into their planning. One child came to me and explained that she wanted to learn about a Brachiosaurus. She said that the Brachiosaurus would need a long tail and a long neck. And she also explained to me that, did I know that a Brachiosaurus was also a four-legged cephalopod? So we're also talking about children bringing their own knowledge to the table, not just me giving them knowledge. It's a reciprocal communication there, where I'm sharing knowledge and so are the children in Over to You time. This particular child has continued to take the lead and direct her creation over 3 days. This doesn't happen in 1 hour. We add and add and add. Each day she's adding, improving and refining her design, and her previous knowledge of dinosaurs has helped her to negotiate with others when friends added parts that she knew wasn't correct, giving her reasons why. She explained that Brachiosauri, these dinosaurs are omnivores. So they need flat teeth to eat plants, and they don't have sharp teeth like carnivores. So those reasoning skills were really high level as well. This example here now, once that child then has showed me an interest in dinosaurs, us teachers then go away and we plan around the fact that there's been an interest in the building area, in the block area, about dinosaurs. So we've taken these statements and we thought, what learning opportunities, what teaching opportunities have we got there with this dinosaur subject? So we've got the book with a hook that we've used, and we've taken literacy links, phonic links. We've done lots of maths opportunities that have come from there. The plan here was enough to fill 2 weeks worth of teaching. But if the scope for dinosaurs was longer, we would have the flexibility to be able to teach for longer. We would never by any means last just 2 weeks. If the interest with the children would go on further, we would have to find more activities to do with dinosaurs and expand it further. But that's to say, this is not all the teaching that happened. Obviously, you'd have your rigorous subjects like your phonics, your reading, all those kind of skills that would happen as a natural. But these would just came as a dinosaur subject. The next few slides that follow are some of the work that came from the dinosaurs big build in the big block area. So this is the focus teaching. We had independent extended writing, drawing and labeling, non-fiction. Quite often I get asked when we do this kind of planning and teaching is, how do you get those extended pieces of writing? How do you get that extended maths? The enthusiasm of the children who are learning from their own plans, there is no boundaries for them. So if we just move on, we've got drawing and labeling, non-fiction writing, clay modeling, sculpting, refining, evaluating, natural material model. There's a knowledge and understanding there, understanding that change is caused by passing of time. They've used fossil making with pasta. We've used our experimenting with drawing techniques, design and technology. And that's also a PSD activity for Dinosaurs Club. How would they help us? And then we moved on to maths, comparing, ordering, all to do with dinosaurs. And then again, repeating patterns, data collection and interpretation. And I think the great thing about this as a professional is that if you are, you're not necessarily tied to a topic. Those 2 weeks, it was dinosaurs. And then one child went to London in the half term, and then we spent the next 3 weeks in London. And it's just as exciting for the professional as it is for the children to be able to know that we're all directing the learning pathways. I'll just pass on to Alison now. Thank you.
It's been a whistle-stop tour really in terms of how we set up block play and how it's used really often to provide a context for learning as the weeks go by. And the block play area really is just one area within the whole learning environment really that's been transformed. But one of the questions we get asked most of all is what's been the impact on learning? And again, like I say, this is just a snapshot really in terms of the whole picture, but certainly because we get allowing children time and space to go to the block play area, to go back and refine and rebuild and revisit those areas over a period of time, certainly we've noticed that terms of high levels of well-being, because the children and the staff are really excited. Anne-Marie's talked about that reciprocal journey really, and how the children are learning alongside the staff. So there's a real buzz really about the learning. Being able to go back and revisit the block area, so it doesn't all have to be put away because you've got to sit on the carpet, for example, at story time, means that the children learn to have really high expectations about what they can achieve in that area, because they know they can go back to it the next day or the next session and they can refine and revisit it. Whereas if they know they've got to put it away in 20 minutes, often I think the expectation of what they can achieve is lower. So we've got real engagement in learning between the adults and the children, and the sophistication and the skill with which children can build actually has quite a lot of implications for us moving into Key Stage 2, because their level of skill and design has come on so much in foundation phase. Certainly we've seen that the children are independent, that they can take responsibility for their learning. I said about reciprocal learning, certainly in terms of improved concentration. Children negotiate, they can review, they can make changes. They have much better ideas than we could ever plan for in a challenge that we could give them. And like I say, they're showing a really high level of skill. The adult directed time really that is still very important, because we need to teach them the skills that they need. But what's really important is that the over to you time, which is the child-led time, has equal status, and the children know that we value it as much as any adult directed time. We know that children demonstrate what they know and understand, and children see our over to you time now as a way to make our work better, because they're living and breathing it. It's improving their knowledge, and we see that then in their focus tasks, because they've lived and breathed it. They've got something to write about, they've got a context in which to develop their numeracy. So they see the links and they know that the adults will value it. And certainly we've seen that that's been seen a change in terms of our standards. Children have something to write about, so we have extended writing, for example, in real contexts. And I would say that one of the things we would say is that we are seeing those 4 purposes. The children are living them and breathing them every single day, because we're seeing that they are ambitious, capable learners, they're creative contributors, they're often enterprising. We certainly see that when the shops are built and the things that they can create. And certainly we've seen through the block play some amazing empathy and understanding really of global and worldwide issues. So those are just some of the things really in terms of the impact. Like I say, it is only a snapshot, but the engagement in learning and the evidence of 4 purposes and the integral skills is clear every day. And what I would say is that we have happy children and happy adults. Thanks, Jo.
Thank you so much, Alison.